Now you might be able to hear something.
All right. You guys can still hear me, correct?
Yeah.
You both can hear me? Will you let me know if you
Yes.
can hear on the stream, Nate, as well? So once we get that figured out, we should be cool. You can hear you now? What's up,
Mm-hmm.
Dakota?
Yeah, Paul, you can hear you on the stream.
Can you hear you guys? Can you hear them? Ryan and Nate? Can you guys talk?
Yeah. Hello.
Heard Nate?
Yeah, I think we're good, Paul.
You can hear Ryan? Once we get confirmation on hearing Ryan, we are set to go.
Yep. Heard Ryan.
Heard Ryan.
Yeah, I can hear. It's good on my end.
Who else? That's a Paul production.
Paul Production. That's correct. So we're going to start the show. Welcome, everybody, to the Drop the Gloves podcast, episode 3, week 4. I want to thank everybody for stopping by. I'm your host, Paul. I'm joined here with my co-host, Nate, and special guest with his mic working this week, Mr. Ryan Berhar.
Let's go.
Ryan, you want to say what's up to everybody?
Hello. Good to finally be here.
Yeah. You know, last time we tried to have him on for Oregon Week, it's probably good that he wasn't in the long run because he probably could have tore us a new one.
No, I wish he was. That would have been awesome.
Yeah. I was planning on it, but
Yeah, you know, karma works in other ways. So we're going to go ahead and hop in. I made a new slide this week, a couple people, as we have 10 viewers in here. Welcome, everybody, to the Drop the Gloves podcast. I don't know if you two can see my stream, but I definitely put some work in this week. And we got current highlights up of the games from the past weekend while we talk about the recaps. So, some notable games this past weekend, fellas. Alabama squeezes by Florida by 2.
It's an SEC game. They're fine. There's nothing to worry about as far as Alabama goes. It's still really early in the season, and they're undefeated. That's all that matters. As long as Alabama's undefeated, they're going to be looked at as the best team in the country, in my opinion.
I agree. Ryan, you want to go more on that?
yeah, I agree as well. But my main thing is Florida, man. I was impressed.
Yeah, me too. I was definitely impressed, and a team I wasn't as impressed with here, Oklahoma holds on at home against unranked Nebraska by a touchdown.
Yeah. That's
Wasn't necessarily ideal. Yeah, it's not their first time this season either.
I mean, they won by like 700 points last week, so their defense finally pitched a shutout, so they got that going for them. But I mean, then they come out this week and almost lose to like what, 8th best team in a conference, maybe.
Yeah, if that. And sorry if the headlines are a little harsh. I wrote them myself, so they might be a little too much. But Ryan, you watched this game.
I did. Yeah. I mean, Oklahoma was not very good. I don't know what else you can say.
Yeah, not the first time. That's the thing that's got past me. You know, a couple other big names struggled this week, but Oklahoma just seems they're a little too close to comfort with some of these teams they should be beating. Yeah.
I mean, he's not playing like a Spencer Rattler type prospect should be playing. I mean, going into the season, you're looking at what was presumably the number 1 pick in next year's draft, and now, I mean, we're 3 weeks in, and that's already not certain.
Yeah, I agree. And then the next game I ended up watching, Cincinnati proves to be too much on the road against Indiana, 38-24.
That defense got some dogs on it.
Yeah, struggled early. Made some bonehead mistakes, Nate.
Hey, Paul, you were texting me during that game.
Yeah.
And So Paul, being an Ohio State fan, doesn't want any Big Ten team to lose because it helps Ohio State.
I want UC to win that game. I want Cincinnati to win.
Hang on, let me finish. Paul texted me in the middle of the second quarter. Said, "Welcome to the Big Ten." After that message, UC outscored Indiana 38-17.
Yeah, Cincinnati's a better team than Indiana. I'm glad that they did. I was rooting for them to win, I promise you.
Cincinnati, they consistently start slow. I mean, we were up 14-7 on Murray State until, halfway through the third quarter, and then we were up 35 in like 6 minutes.
Yeah.
It's how the team plays. It takes them a second to get the run game established, and then once Jerome Ford gets going, that offense is almost unstoppable. And the defense, like I said, that whole defense is going to be playing on Sunday.
Yeah, and Ryan, I know how Nate feels about this next team, but how are you feeling about this? Clemson squeaks by Georgia Tech 14-8.
I mean, definitely not feeling great about Clemson, but I don't know. I put them pretty high in my rankings, I guess, relatively, because I just give them somewhat of a benefit of the doubt. But
that's exactly where I'm at with it too. I don't want to count them out just yet.
Good to say, but yeah,
I don't want to count them out just yet.
Right. Yeah.
Now this next one, Iowa and Oregon both show their guns and blow out victories. So, I know, Ryan, you were saying maybe a little bit early you guys struggled with Stony Brook, but compared to what the other big-name teams are doing, you guys did not struggle nearly as much as the other ones.
Well, it was 17-7 at halftime.
Yeah.
Which, was obviously not expected. And then our quarterback exited at halftime.
Yeah.
And so we had a new freshman for the second half, and as far as the result, I mean, it was 17-7, and then we ended up winning. I think it was 48-7.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so I mean, he did, well. He wasn't really asked to do much, but
right.
I mean, it's hard to take really anything from it, I would say.
That's fair.
But Anthony Brown is supposed to be all right, from what I hear, anyway.
Gotcha. Well, I watched this next game. Kind of wish I wouldn't have. Very hard game to watch. Ohio State struggles continue, but overpower Tulsa late 41-20. This was a close game.
Defense stinks.
Their defense is just not it right now. I mean, they switched Kerry Coombs off calling games.
But I think Sean Wade would help this defense right now.
Yeah, I mean, the way they switched Kerry Coombs out of calling plays on the field, they moved him up to the press box, and it still did not help. I mean, overall looked a little bit better, but you're playing Tulsa and you're Ohio State. You should be doing a lot more. All I got to say is this week they play Akron, and I don't know.
Welcome.
Yeah, well, exactly. This next one, though, might have been one of the biggest games of the week. I'm sure everybody watched this one. Penn State brought the energy to Auburn 28-20 in the whiteout game.
Penn State's good.
Yeah, I was also very impressed with Auburn.
Yeah, it was going on during the Ducks game, so
okay. Yeah.
I was watching it on like a little window on the TV, but I saw it, not very closely, but I was impressed by both of them. Really,
yeah, that's where I stand with it.
I got Penn State ranked as the best team in the Big Ten. You think that's crazy?
Not at all. I don't think it's crazy. I mean, the two best teams in the Big Ten right now are Iowa and Penn State. I won't not say it. Speaking of the Big Ten, Michigan State stomps Miami 38-17. Miami gets their second blowout loss in the last 3 weeks.
The Big Ten's having a Big start to the year.
Yeah. I have it a little bit more in my rankings to go over that, so we can kind of talk about it a little bit more coming up, but it doesn't go in too much. But this one I think Ryan might want to comment on. Fresno State can't be taken lightly with a win over UCLA 40-37.
Yes. So I've watched them twice now, and I mean they are for real. I mean, I can tell you that quarterback is insane. I don't know if you guys saw it, but like he was basically completely injured and just led him right down the field to win the game at
Now,
the very end. Like,
when you say completely
super
injured,
impressive.
he didn't pull a Paul Pierce, right? Getting wheeled off in a wheelchair and then he comes back just fine. No.
No. I mean that guy's really, really tough, and I mean they have a defense that's pretty good. I mean, we very, very nearly lost to them.
I was going to say, I was very impressed with them week one when they
mean,
played Oregon tight.
Yeah, because, I mean, you can say what you want about UCLA, but I think we, Oregon, at this point, are kind of proven, and the fact that we very nearly lost to them.
Yeah, and Nate, I think both of our opinions have changed on this. I think Oregon holds the best win in the country right now. What do you think?
Yeah, with the way that Clemson has played, I would agree with you, but I also think that Ohio State's defense is at risk of losing them some games, which could lower the value of that win over time.
It's also fair. So how about this one, guys? Notre Dame looks unimpressive and win over Purdue 27-13. This game was one score till 3-4 minutes left. Again, Notre Dame in a dogfight with a team they should be blowing out.
It's big UC's playing them at this point in the year and not later in the year once Notre Dame's unranked.
Yeah. What do you think, Ryan?
Oh, who can ever figure Notre Dame out? I don't know.
They have their ceiling has always reached the fourth best team and never the third best team. That's where I always see them at.
I've never seen them win a big game.
I mean, Ryan can vouch for me on this. Last year, Clemson loses to Notre Dame with DJ in, and I said when Trevor Lawrence comes back, Trevor Lawrence will blow out Notre Dame. And Ryan, you were talking about how well DJ played in that game. I said it didn't matter.
Yeah, there's a difference in
Yes.
just having Trevor Lawrence and
I remember that.
Yeah, so moving on now. Memphis stuns the Power 5 with win over Mississippi State 31-29.
welcome to the American.
I like that. I was actually very surprised with this. I did not. If we were,
American had a big weekend.
they did. They actually did. American also beat. Besides they beat the Big Ten twice, or they beat the Big Ten and the SEC this weekend. So,
They had 2 Big Ten wins.
did they?
Should have.
Oh, should have. Gotcha. How about this one? Pretty simple one-liner here. A&M, Michigan, Georgia, and Arkansas flex their muscles and blow out ones. They did their job, what they were supposed to this week. None of these teams had a tough game, and they all proved that.
Say A&M?
A&M, Michigan, Georgia, and Arkansas. They all blew out teams.
A&M finally blew out a team that they should blow out?
Well, I didn't say that they played an FBS school. The more names in the school, the higher chance you should win. So, and I think they played one that had more names than my name, and you know how long my name is. So I think that's one of the biggest takes I take away from that. But moving on, West Virginia takes out the last unbeaten ranked team in the ACC, Virginia Tech 27-21. It's week 4.
Not a good conference.
I think that they are officially the worst in the Power 5.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that, Ryan?
Virginia Tech.
That the ACC as a whole is the worst conference in the Power 5.
Oh. I mean, it has to be, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, considering, you know...
I mean, Clemson's down.
Yeah, they don't... Clemson won't even have a ranked game on their schedule for the rest of the year.
Yeah, it's impossible at this point, I think, for an ACC team to get into the playoff.
Ooh, that Wake Forest, that's the last undefeated team in there. And I made sure to put ranked team because...
Who can Clemson beat to get into the playoff?
Dude, they play Florida State. Speaking of Florida State had their first 0-3 start since 1978 after losing to Wake Forest over the weekend.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah, that'll be a good win on the resume.
So that also will be a good one. Now, here's one that I've been getting my ear talked off all week by Austin Belcher. Ole Miss blows out another weaker school, Tulane, 61-21, with Alabama in sight this week. Fellas, I'm going to give my Ole Miss take right now and see what you guys think of it. I don't trust a team 3 weeks in that hasn't played a conference game that hasn't had a winning season in 6 years.
You're not buying it?
And the AP poll has them at 13.
You're not buying it?
I'm not buying it. They are like Rutgers to me right now. Rutgers is 3-0. Speaking of them, my last line is BYU, Maryland, Kentucky, Rutgers all moved to 3-0 after starting season unranked. Ole Miss probably has a higher ceiling than a lot of those teams. But what big moves did they make in the offseason off the top of your guys' head? You guys know any that they made that should make them number 13?
I mean, that quarterback's definitely getting some,
Yeah,
buzz.
I'll give them that.
But apart from that,
No, yeah, to your point, Ole Miss football hasn't been a thing since The Blind Side.
Upset of the century. Okay, well, we'll move on to the next part here. The next slide. I got our rankings. So, I put my rankings, Nate's rankings, and Ryan's rankings all up on the screen. And the rankings by conference in the AP poll, not our own right now. The SEC has 7 teams in the rankings. The Big Ten right behind them with 6 teams. The Big 12 has 3. The Pac-12 with 2. The ACC with 2. Independents are 2 because they don't have one. That's going to be your BYU and Notre Dame. The Mountain West has 1. The American has 1. We know who that is. And the Sun Belt has 1. And the biggest differences from our polls that I realized compared to the AP polls, we're not as high on Ole Miss or A&M across the board.
Yeah, I mean, I got Ole Miss at 15. I think it's a good football team. Like you said, I think the ceiling's a lot higher for them than a team like Rutgers. But
yeah,
no higher.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. I have them at 23. And it really just comes down to I'd move them enough over. I have them ahead of Rutgers and stuff like that because I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because Austin Belcher is going to kill me if not. But I'm waiting to. They haven't shown me anything this year, to be honest. I want to see them play a good team. And Ryan, you have them at 18 as well.
I saw that you had them significantly lower than the AP, so I was like, I'll just put them somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Dude, sometimes I feel like I do more research on my rankings than the AP. I start making my rankings Sunday morning.
Yeah, they should probably hire you.
I don't know. So I don't know how often you guys do yours, but if you're tuning into the stream, you could see that I obviously mark my moves up and down for who moves and who's new into my rankings. Oregon and Iowa both jumped Oklahoma for me this week. Oklahoma unimpressive. Oregon and Iowa impressive enough to jump them. And Cincinnati moved up one. Penn State took a spot. Clemson goes down 3. Get this. I moved Texas A&M up a spot. Ohio State stays. Florida stays. Auburn stays. And Maryland stays, even though Maryland won. Here's the reasoning behind that for me. I will never move a team up after a loss, no matter who it is or how good they play. I just can't do it. They can, guess what, that loss can mean a lot to me, and they win next week, and that loss carries over to me now. But Florida and Auburn both impressed me a lot this past Saturday, but that's why I didn't even drop them a spot. But guess what? Say they win this week, there's a very good spot they jump Iowa State, Texas A&M, all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, Paul.
So I noticed that Nate got Penn State all the way up to his 5. Ryan, you got him at 9. Got them at 9, and I met right in the middle at 7.
Well, here, the reason that I have Penn State at 5, one, struggle to put them over an undefeated Oklahoma team simply out of track record. And struggle saying that the best team in the Big Ten, with the way that Iowa is playing, is any lower than 5.
Yeah. You moved Penn State over Iowa this past week. Okay. Now, Ryan, it doesn't look like you're very high on either.
But coming into this week, I had Iowa at 10, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you definitely bumped them then. So Ryan's still believing in Clemson and Ohio State up pretty high. Reputation, I'm assuming?
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't want to give up on them yet, huh?
Well, I was thinking, because usually when I'm doing rankings, I'm thinking in terms of, okay, will this team actually defeat this other team,
Yeah.
as opposed to, like, who deserves, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think this is where we have some discrepancies. But yeah,
So
go ahead.
You don't think that a Florida team that Alabama just squeaked by would take down a team like Clemson if they played like tomorrow?
Oh, possibly. Very possibly, I think. But I would just give Clemson a bit of a benefit of the doubt there.
So here's how I think of it, Nate. I go by most deserving, and here's the reason why.
Yeah.
Florida did play good against Alabama, right? They did play very good, very well. Impressed me. Iowa and those teams, they didn't get to play Alabama this week. So you don't know how they would match up. But they did enough in their respective games to not get jumped by a team like that, to me. And when you win good, you have ranked wins like Iowa or Penn State or those teams. I don't feel like it's fair for them to get jumped by a team that lost.
Yeah.
It gets kind of muddy there, and then the other one, the AP poll has A&M at 7, and it doesn't really look like any of us are sold on them.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious to me.
Yeah, the hardest part of my rankings this week that I really had to ponder was the 10 and 11 spot. Because, like you were saying though, Brian, like to talk about how you did your rankings, I can't imagine A&M or Iowa State being better than Florida. And I couldn't keep Notre Dame there. I wanted to move Wisconsin up, but they were on a bye. A team that keeps impressing me, though, is BYU. And Michigan. As bad as it sounds, Michigan has been very dominant in all of their games.
I'm a lot lower on Wisconsin than you guys are.
I see that. They have their only losses to Penn State by a touchdown.
Yeah. I think there's just too many teams in the Big Ten that are playing a lot more impressive football based off just the eye test alone. And I think that right now, if they played, I think Michigan's one of the hottest teams in the Big Ten right now. I think they're a scary team to play.
Yeah, as bad as it sounds, since when does Michigan know how to play offense?
And yeah, and like you just touched on it, Michigan State's playing good football. And then I just struggle to say that like they're better than a team like Iowa State or Iowa, Penn State in their conference. So
I understand that completely. And a lot of this sorts itself out. Eventually.
I don't think it's going to be a big year for Wisconsin. I think the Big Ten's just very, very good at football.
Well, Ryan, what are you thinking? If you had to rank your teams at the top of the Big Ten, Ryan, what are you looking at right now?
Well, obviously I have Ohio State at the top, right?
Okay. So you're not done on Ohio State.
No, I mean, losing to the Ducks, I mean, there's no shame,
Yeah, that's fair.
No, I mean, they clearly have not been overly impressive, but I mean, it's very possible that I'm just going too much off reputation.
Yeah.
But I think it's reasonable to go on reputation when you have such a huge track record,
Yeah. It's not an Ole Miss right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, like they're proven, and if you're proven on that level, it's going to be hard for me to move Iowa ahead of you. That's just really, really difficult for me to do.
I just think that you're talking about a team that was proven, though, that was like we talked about a couple weeks ago. Trevor Lawrence throwing to T. Higgins. When you're talking about a Clemson team that is just simply not impressive this year, like I just think it's hard to go off track record with a team like that just week after week isn't passing the eye test. And that whole team that was proven for Clemson is now playing on Sundays, and the guys that are playing for Clemson now, last year and the year before that, were all playing on Fridays. So this team, like, these aren't proven teams in my opinion. Like, all I know of these teams is Dabo Swinney, and Dabo Swinney, is he known for winning teams? Yes. But I don't know anything about these players, and these players do not look like they are Clemson football teams of the past.
Well, I can see where you both are coming from here, so I can meet you in the middle. Ryan, I feel like you're basing it off of, what, these teams have been good for so long. I'm not going to just write them off yet because guess what? They're still bringing in the 5-star, 4-star recruits where they have more talent than almost every team they play.
Exactly.
And they have the coaches that have won before. But to what Nate's saying is, these players have huge shoes to fill. It doesn't mean that they're going to be exactly, is C.J. Stroud going to be a Justin Fields?
The best team in the country isn't a bad team.
Yeah. And I think with that, we can move on. I think we touched on rankings. Anybody see anything that they want to talk about in the rankings before we move on?
I think if UC wins big against Notre Dame, I think that you have to make a legitimate thought about moving them into the top 5.
Who are you taking out, in your opinion? Because I hope you know that Penn State and Iowa play each other in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, it might not be this week.
You want me to tell you who I think it'll be? Oklahoma keeps looking very unimpressive to me.
Yeah. I mean, Oklahoma could easily lose a game that could move Penn State and Iowa and UC all up.
Yeah. So moving on with that, I've got our Heisman hopefuls. So, moving on from mine last week, I had another bump moving up. C.J. Verdell moved to number 2 on my Heisman rankings. Just followed, we all know Bryce Young, number 1 across the board. I went with Rattler at 3, Ritter at 4, and I'm still high on Breece Hall, who had another 100-plus yard rushing day. Ryan, you went with Bryce Young, Spencer Rattler, Matt Corral, Desmond Ritter, C.J. Verdell. Nate, you switched yours up a little bit this week. You still got C.J. Stroud in there.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio State. Again, I can't do it in the rankings, but based off of track record, because I'm doing rankings based off of right now. Based off of track record, I feel like Ohio State figures it out eventually.
Okay.
And in order for them to win the Big Ten with that defense, C.J. Stroud is going to almost have to be a Heisman finalist.
That's fair. And I noticed you threw Sam Howell from North Carolina in there.
He's playing good football. He's in a bad conference. So, I mean, I look for him to put up some pretty freakish numbers if he keeps playing football at the level that he is.
Yeah, and Ryan, you want to touch on your rankings at all?
Dude, you have Verdell number 2?
Yeah, I had him number 3 last week. I think I said it. I said it. The game against Ohio State, if you look upon a season of a Heisman candidate that typically wins and they have their Heisman moment game, that was it for me.
Dude, I am proud of you. That is fantastic.
And if you want to know, I bumped out Olave and C.J. Stroud to throw him on last week.
See, I thought if I put Verdell on my list at all, I would appear very biased. You know?
Nate had Verdell last week.
Well, I'm super happy about that. The man's getting respect.
Oh, yeah.
Love to see it. He's definitely taken this game just to another level. I mean...
Yeah, I witnessed it firsthand, Ryan. I got it. I'm just messing with you.
Like, he's been around for a few years, and he has really gotten better this year. I can tell you that.
Yeah, it looks like he has a magnet to the goalpost when he has the ball.
Guy's just a freaking beast. I love it. He does tend to get hurt a little bit, though.
Ooh.
Which concerns me. We're kind of using Travis Dye a good bit as well.
Okay.
So maybe that'll keep him more, healthy.
Yeah.
But as far as the others, I mean, I'd like to hear what you guys think, but I mean, I don't think anyone's really taken a stranglehold on the thing.
No, I'm with you. I think it's the same way with the rankings right now. The way that it is, Alabama, as strong as they are, we all put them number 1 for a reason. But I'm not the only one that thinks that there was at least a crack in the armor that they could be beaten, right? I mean, they only won by 2 points.
Florida proved it this weekend. Go ahead, Ryan. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, it seems pretty wide open to me.
I think it's great for college football.
Yeah, you don't have... I mean, Bryce Young, obviously, is kind of supposed to be the guy, right?
If anything, before the season, DJ was supposed to be the guy.
Hey, he's a child, Paul. He's younger than you.
Thank you. That doesn't make me feel better.
But, I mean, Bryce Young, he's been good, but I wouldn't say he's, really put a stranglehold on the Heisman.
Yeah, he's not having a Burrow, you're not catching me year. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about it too. He's not having one of those Heisman years where it's, oh, nobody's catching me no matter how good of a year you have.
No.
McCaffrey got robbed still saying it. But
Yeah, that's horrible.
and
King Henry.
King Henry. But you witnessed that firsthand Sunday too, didn't you?
Yep, King Henry rolled us over.
But going back to college, I think it is wide open. And as I was talking about Verdell's game against Ohio State, I'm not saying it'll be enough to jump him or anything like that, Nate. But as a UC fan, you got to think that his Heisman game is coming up in 2 weeks when they go to South Bend and take on Notre Dame.
Yeah, Ritter's got to step up.
So we're
Like we were texting earlier, and like I told you, we can't have games where we're playing good teams, and we gotta depend on the run game and our defense. If you're gonna win a Heisman, at some point you gotta have your moment. You gotta have that moment that not only puts you in the Heisman race, but ups your draft stock. I mean, he's trying to make a name for himself. I mean, he's been UC's quarterback for 35 years. So, I mean, this is it for him.
So he needs one of those start of the third quarter where you think your team made halftime adjustments, then a big run gets broke out to start the third quarter, and the commentators are going crazy because he's scoring again, running up, and he silenced the whole stadium. He needs one of those. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, it's burned into my mind now, Ryan, by the way. But moving on now to one of, a very hot topic, hot commodity when it comes to college football. Anybody at UC Talk College Football probably carries an opinion on this, and that's the ideal college football playoff format. So we got mine, Ryan's, and Nate's all up on the stream here. Ryan's in favor of going back to the BCS with 2 teams. Nate has an expansion idea number 1, and I have expansion idea number 2. So Ryan, would you like to start out and go your way of thinking with it? And Nate, you want to go with yours? And then I'll follow up with mine. So to start out, Ryan, yours would be 2 teams. It's a mix of computer and human rankings. The top 2 teams from rankings play in the national championship. And this was the former national championship format from 1998 to 2014. And this format, I've thrown an interesting fact in here. Nate, think about how much I love typing this. This format was won 9 times by the SEC.
Yeah, at that point, I feel like it would become what everybody complained about before again.
So, Ryan, you want to argue for your half here?
Yeah, so my question to you guys is, would you agree that basically every single year they got the 2 best teams in the game?
I would say
No.
so. I would say, yeah, when it comes to... Wait, are you talking about in the BCS?
In the BCS.
Ooh. So, I hate to say this, Ryan, but BCS, when the college football playoff came out, I was 15. So I didn't see a ton amount of, I might have watched some football, but I didn't watch football to, have an opinion on better teams. But I'll take your word for it because you have a strong enough side on this that you want to go back to it.
Well, I guess, a bit older. So, yeah, but, I'm not prepared to say that every single time without fail they got it right. But my point is, it worked. So, they got the 2 best teams. It was never really in question. So to me, that's a very good argument against expansion. Because there are some major downsides to the current system. The bowls are essentially ruined.
I also agree with that. I hate how many players sit out of bowl games.
Yeah, and
I want to see full strength Oklahoma play full strength, another top team, etc.
Yeah, and that did not happen back in the day. nearly as much. It did not happen.
I agree.
So,
I agree with that. Do you agree with that, Nate? The Bulls aren't really carried as heavy anymore.
Yeah, I do agree with that. The only issue that I have with going back and making the national championship opportunity smaller is situations like we saw in the very first college football playoff where Ohio State was able to knock off Alabama. You're not going to have that where we prove that, hey, they got the number one team in the country wrong.
Yeah, I can. I also agree with that. Go on, Ryan.
well, that's one example, yes. But doesn't the 4 team typically just get run over?
I agree with that. The number 4 team does get run over. Notre
It's like, what
Dame
are we?
has that on their mantle. First loser in college football playoff every year.
So, so the way I see it is like they're trying to have the best of both worlds. Like they're like, okay, well, the BCS had some good things about it, like the regular season is extremely important, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So we don't want to have too big of a playoff,
Uh-huh.
but we want a playoff. Well, and to me, it's just like they're trying to have the best of both worlds and just completely missing the mark. It's like because the Bulls are ruined
Yeah.
and we just have 2 extra teams in there. Like, why? We don't need. We don't need that.
Yeah.
Yeah, bowl games outside of the playoffs at this point are just money grabs. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
You're not watching 2 football teams play at full strength. You're watching 2 football teams next year. Like, what are these teams going to look like next year? Because these are just a bunch of backups.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Um,
So Nate, I threw your expansion idea on here as well. Ryan, are you finished talking about it, or you want to add any more things?
I think that's mainly what I wanted to say. I mean, I'd be like, I don't know if you're gonna, if you have this, if I told you this or not, but my secondary idea is 8 teams.
Yeah, that's what both of us have. Mine and Nate both have 8
because
teams.
if you go beyond 8, then I think you're diminishing the regular season too much.
Yeah.
But if you have 8, then it's like, okay, then we just be like, okay, forget about the Bulls, and just have a full blown playoff, and then the Power 5 get in.
Yeah.
And then there's 3 wild cards.
So moving on to that, we're gonna go with Nate's team. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Nate's idea: 8 teams, Power 5 winners, 3 wild cards decided by committee, 0 buys, all games on neutral sites. So Nate, you would have the number 1 seed play the 8 seed, 4 play the 5, 2 play the 7, 3 play the 6, all on neutral sites.
correct.
So you want to dabble in on that? Why do you think that would be better?
I think there's been way too many times where a group of 5 schools haven't got the opportunity to win anything. I mean, any other college sport.
You're talking about the UCF national champions?
Yeah, right. But any other college sport, every team has a chance to win a national title.
It's true. Like March Madness?
Yeah. I mean, every team goes into a season, no matter what school they go to, feeling like they have a shot.
Okay.
And if you go in and you win every game that you play, why doesn't that team get a shot? What more can you do?
I agree with you. Now, can I ask you a question on this, though? Why do you want all games on neutral sites?
Would it be fair to have a team go undefeated, ranked number 4, and then or number 5, and then have to go deal with a Penn State whiteout game?
Ooh, it would not be easy.
You see what I'm saying? Like that's
Yeah.
not.
Yours is pretty similar to mine. So, hear me out here. Here's my idea. I put a lot of thought into this, okay? 8 teams, Power 5 winners, 3 wild cards decided by committee, just like yours,
nice.
Nate. The top 2 teams get a bye. The first 2 rounds are at teams' home stadiums. And every game that is in the playoff is incorporated to the bowl games. So the Peach Bowl would be in the playoff, you know what I mean, etc.
Gotcha. So are you eliminating bowls then?
No, the New Year's 6 bowls would all be part of the playoff.
Playoff games?
Yeah. So, and here's why I'm doing this. Ryan, to your point earlier.
Bowls outside of the playoff?
No. So you kind of run into the same issue, but then again, let's be honest, outside of the top 8 teams, do people really care that much?
Yeah, who's watching 4 and 6 team go up against 5 and
That's what I mean. Like
the
they
Bells
could
Bowl?
Yeah, that's they can play in the Dollar General Bowl and their home fans can watch it just fine. Now, Ryan, I think you'll like this point, okay? You might not exactly love the top 2 get buys, but here's why. If you're fighting for a top 2 spot, the regular season means so much more. And here's why. If you're trying to play for a bye, here's a statistic for you. Of every team that's won the Super Bowl, you know how the NFL playoff has buys. 86% of the time, the Super Bowl winner has come from a first-round bye. So, if you're going to fight for a bye, I think every regular season game means so much more if you're going to play. And then even get that, you get a bye and a home game. I think that you should be rewarded. Now, Nate, I completely understand you don't want to go to a Penn State whiteout. But would you rather go to a Penn State whiteout or be pissed off at watching your TV when you don't even qualify for the playoff after going undefeated again?
Here's how I feel. I feel like group of 5 teams should have to have a big win, prove themselves, and they often don't get that in the regular season.
That's why you joined the Big 12.
So, well, what I'm saying is, don't give the first 2 teams a bye. Make them play the 7 and the 8 seed, because we're gonna you don't want to punish the group of 5 school. You want to make them earn their right to be there, and I think making them go and play a road game would almost be a punishment because they're already going into a game that they're not supposed to win.
I can 100% see your side on that. Like, that definitely makes sense. Here's my issue with it. When you're going to be a top team like Alabama or something like that, and you know you can afford a loss, I think that kind of diminishes some of the biggest games in the regular season.
Yeah, it's like a conference winner.
Yeah, like you can be like, oh, you know what? We don't got to win our conference. We could say we lose to Florida, right, Ryan? We lose to Florida, whatever. We'll just win out, still make the playoff anyway. We don't have when you add that worry in, where you have to fight for every game and can't lose again. I think that adds into it. So C.J. Martini thought he was going to be here, but he said no. Got your text, Nate. That's 100% cool. There should be no buy out of him. I know I'm kind of in the minority of the buy here, but I think my reasoning for it kind of holds up. Don't you, Ryan?
Yeah. I just think. I mean, the reason I love college football is because the regular season is so important.
Yeah.
Compared to college basketball, no one cares at all about the regular season.
Yeah.
So I think it's like, just do whatever you can to make it as important as it can be. And the more teams you put in there in a playoff, the less important the regular season is, right? And
Yeah.
and I know an issue that you and I have talked about is Alabama can just schedule
Citadel.
Hoover Walmart third shift and coast through.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it would definitely be very nice if we could somehow incentivize them, or not just them, but the elite in college football to schedule tougher games, but I really have no idea how to do that.
Well, I think that's why mine would almost make sense. I think expanding to 8 would make sense because I'll tell you this. I looked at so each week ESPN releases after the games, right? They release their college football playoff prediction for the 4 teams that they predict. Each week, nothing concrete, it changes, right? Ohio State was not on a single one of them. Not one. And they lost to the number 3 team in the country by a touchdown in week 2.
Oh. Yeah, but the thing about that game in particular, you guys really had very little to gain and just everything to lose. Whereas, we had nothing to lose, everything to gain. So that's kind of how it works with those.
Yeah, I can see that.
If you're expected to win,
yeah,
then you just win, and that you just did what you're supposed to do, right?
Yeah, but as a fan, take a step back from being a fan of a team, okay? As a college football fan, I'd rather watch Ohio State lose to Oregon than watch Alabama beat Mercer by 50, right?
As a just a general fan,
Just a general fan.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I almost want to say the games the way I have it, where you fight for a bye, is those resumes would be boosted if you get those marquee wins. Say that the 4 seed or the 3 seed scheduled Citadel, and the 1 and 2 seed are the Georgia playing Clemson. And that's enough weight to push you over to get a bye. That's how I'm kind of thinking of it. Because I've been on the fence. As an Ohio State fan, might sound dumb, might literally be called stupid to the face. I would rather watch my team play a 1-score game with Oregon that we have the potential to lose than play Sisters of the Poor and win by 60. Beating a team by 60 that you should beat by 60 does not prove to me what kind of team you are.
Yeah, for sure. But my question is, if Alabama is number 1, which they are going to be every year, as long as they win, they're going to stay there.
I'm not blaming Alabama for what they're doing. Nobody's making them change.
Are you trying? Yeah, go ahead.
Nobody's making them change. Say if you're Alabama, right? We just saw Alabama win by 2 at Florida, right? So, say Oregon this year. Say if the season ended right now and that there were 8 teams, and you went by strictly resume the way that I'm putting it, Oregon and Georgia have the best 2 wins in the country right now. Do you agree?
By far.
By far. Would Alabama think twice about scheduling Mercer when in the first off, they got to play 2 playoff games instead of 1, so they get the 3rd seed. And now they're playing either a Cincinnati or a Clemson or something. In the first round, they get a home game. But guess what? For them scheduling Mercer and Georgia beating Clemson or Oregon beating Ohio State, now they're going to have to get on a plane and go to Oregon or go to Georgia to play. Instead of scheduling a tough game because they're Alabama and the best team in the country that they should have confidence to beat anybody, and that should carry their resume. But the thing is, I would rather play that game at home every time. We all know home field advantages everything. But the thing is, we might be talking around something here that doesn't make sense because Alabama's starting to sign home and homes. They got one with Ohio State.
Right.
But, you know, who's not? Clemson. You know, a lot of the other SEC teams are not doing it. It's mostly the SEC and the ACC. No offense to you guys, but the Pac-12 needs to schedule those so they can boost the resume.
Right. Yeah.
And even the Big 12 does it, though. Although Oklahoma and Nebraska is that shouldn't be that good of a game. Obviously it was. But what I have not been impressed with, you can call me a hater if you want. I'm not really going to take offense to it. Alabama can schedule better than Miami. Because, I'm not sold on Miami. Georgia scheduled Clemson. Ohio State is playing a home starting next year with Notre Dame. Top of the line schools. You guys just did one with us and won. I still think that picking a middle of the pack team shouldn't carry as much weight as playing a top 10 team, obviously. Yeah, Ohio State scheduled Akron after they scheduled Oregon, though. That's what I mean, CJ. Every team schedules like that because it keeps the small schools up and going. I don't think it's to keep the small schools up and going. I think it's just there's no chance of losing. Look at Clemson's schedule. Outside of Georgia, they don't have a ranked team that's hurting them. Scheduling Citadel is hurting them. If they scheduled a top 10 team and they got a win, they would have a chance again. Do you agree?
Well, it's only hurting them because they scheduled Georgia, right? And lost.
Yeah, and they're in the worst division in football.
Yeah, so if you schedule a team like that and lose, well, yeah, then you're kind of in trouble. If you don't have any other good opponents.
Yeah, but I'm mostly speaking of the very top here. I'm talking the 1, 2, 3, 4 seed in the country out of 250 schools have to worry about this. I just want to see better games as a fan, as everything. I think it proves. I think you learn more from a team when they play a better team than when they. Okay, Ohio State playing Akron this Saturday will not mean a thing to me. They're going to win. They should win 80-0. I'm in the same boat with them after they win 80-0 than before it. That doesn't tell me how good a team is. That Penn State-Auburn game proved to me a lot about Auburn. I'm a lot higher on them, and they lost. I think they're a lot better team than than I was giving them before because they played a tough game.
Something to keep in mind too is the conferences are kind of getting shook up now.
Yeah. And that is true.
It'll be interesting to see how that changes,
Yeah, a lot of the teams that are joining the Big 12 actually started playing good. Cincinnati, BYU, etc. They started playing good football.
Yeah.
So that's good for them. The only issue is Oklahoma is leaving. So moving on here, we got a last segment of the night, Ryan, and that is our picks. And I went with our college football pick'em records. Once again, anybody can join. Just go ahead and ask me for the link or comment for the link, and I'll go ahead and put it in the chat. Our pick record, Nate unfortunately had to leave us, but his pick record is 12-9. I'm sitting at 18-10, and Ryan, you're at 10-10.
Yeah, I'm scrub.
No. So here we go. I'm going to go back and read one comment I got from CJ here. He says the small schools don't make money unless teams unless they schedule big schools do that. Alabama plays a hard SEC schedule almost every year except some years it's year in and year out. Every team schedules years ahead. You expect Miami to have a good team. I get that, scheduling small schools. The issue is nobody in the country that has watched a college football game expects Miami to be at the level of Alabama in 5 years, in 10 years. I expect Alabama scheduling a home-and-home with Penn State where they go to the whiteout, where they go to a powerhouse, is better than that.
Well,
like how they played Florida State after they were 6-6 for 3 years in a row. That doesn't sell me.
that's why I don't like scheduling games like 500 years in advance. I mean, like I'm kind of opposed to that, just in general.
Me too.
Because to the guy's point, like you don't know how good a team is going to be. I mean,
Yeah, but that's when you go off reputation, right? You're not going to lose if you schedule. It still won't even look bad if you schedule a powerhouse.
well, like Alabama is one thing, but someone like Miami could be really good one year, really bad the next year,
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying you take the consistency. But we'll move on from that and go ahead with our picks, okay, Ryan? So I got all the top 25 games in front of me right now with the point spread and the over-under, okay? Starting out on Friday night, we got UNLV going to Fresno State. Fresno State's favored by 30.5. This over-under is 58.
Yeah, Fresno State, man.
I'm a believer.
Yep. They're the real Bulldogs.
Yeah, they're the real Bulldogs. So that's a wide spread, 30.5.
That is. I might not take that bet, but
Yeah, that's a big spread. So here is the Fox game of the week, which I think about everybody knows this is game of the week. Should be, I mean, I'm a little upset with Game Day, with their picks for this one. For their Game Day pick, they had West Virginia and Oklahoma. At Oklahoma, like Oklahoma should win that game. You know what I mean? When this game's on the schedule, but whatever. We'll move on from that. Number 12, Notre Dame, is going to number 18, Wisconsin. And Wisconsin is one of the only teams that are not ranked higher that are favored. They're getting 5.5. And this over-under is 47. Yes, they are. Wisconsin's 1-1. They had a blowout win against an FCS school and a 6 or 7 point loss to Penn State in week 1.
I mean, I'm definitely a little surprised. But you said 5.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I would not take that bet, but
It's the bet. It's the Super Six bet. So Fox does a Super Six bet each week where it's like a parlay. You pick the game, and they try to pick the 6 hardest games to pick because it's the most money. And this is one of them, obviously, and that's their spread. So I don't know if they're just trying to bait some people into taking that or what. But
so, what's your pick there?
look, you can call me a homer here. I'm picking Wisconsin. Not more the fact that I'm impressed with Wisconsin, but more of the fact that I'm not impressed with Notre Dame. Because I don't know about you, but I have not been very impressed with Notre Dame at all this year.
Well, yeah, they've not been very impressive, but like I said earlier, Notre Dame to me is just maybe probably largely because they're an independent. Like I just can never figure them out really.
Yeah,
But
yeah, go ahead.
last year they were actually very good.
Yeah, but here's the issue I find with Notre Dame. Actually, did I say issue? Wrong word.
Yeah.
I spoke wrong. Not issue. Here's the biggest thing I commend about Notre Dame. They consistently, year in and year out, play one of the toughest schedules in the country.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to Wisconsin, so yet that they play Wisconsin on the road this week. They play Cincinnati next week.
That's pretty tough. Yeah.
And they're going to play Stanford and everybody that they always play. So I'm taking Wisconsin to win. Wait, I don't know. I don't trust offenses in this game. This is a low over under a 47.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, it
Maybe
is a neutral site
Wisconsin.
game? Oh, this is a neutral site game. Of course it is.
Oh, it is?
Of course it is. Where's this game being played at, Nick?
Notre Dame does not play a single game at that it's either not favored towards them or if they're not at home. You
By the
can
way,
look at their
Brian,
schedule.
here's my other
UC
host, CJ, making his first welcoming.
This is a surprise appearance. I just wanted to say with the Alabama thing, the small schools get paid to play them. That's not like Ohio State. They play Akron to play them, so they get exposure. That is not because they want to just keep on scheduling weak games.
I can see that, and that's fine and dandy. But at least schedule one really tough one. Oh, this game's at Soldier Field in Chicago. Notre Dame and Wisconsin. Neither of these teams are from there.
Notre Dame won't play nobody unless they're at a neutral site or they're at home.
That kind of throws me off a little bit. What about you, Ryan? What do you think about that?
I was thinking Wisconsin if it's at Wisconsin, but I mean that's kind of a tough environment. On a neutral at Soldier.
Why is this game there? That's what I'm trying to. Why is this there?
But I don't know. I'll probably take Notre Dame barely, and I'll definitely take the 5.5. You know.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Wisconsin just to counter you. CJ, you want to finish these picks with us?
Yeah, sure, I will.
Notre Dame and Wisconsin. What you got?
You're gonna hate me for this, but I got Notre Dame in a blowout.
Really? Okay.
I do. I say this because look at Notre Dame when they play. Like when they actually are supposed to play to their potential, and they play good teams, they usually do. Unless it's in the college football playoffs where they can never get past a good game.
Okay.
But the simple fact is, it's not at Wisconsin.
Yeah, that kind of threw me through a loop for a second.
Because I remember looking at their schedule very clear just to see who they play. And every game they play, whether it be, it's always a home game when they play somebody tough. North Carolina, they play them at home. USC, they play them at home. UC, they play them at home. They are scared to go on the road, and Brian Kelly is scared to come to Cincinnati again. That is what it comes down to.
So, Ryan, I don't know how well you know about the Brian Kelly situation, but there's a lot of unhappy Cincinnati people about it. I think I told you about it, didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think he would not want to come back. So, by the way, Ryan, CJ is the person I went through sports media and broadcasting school with, my broadcasting partner, my podcast partner for everything. I'm surprised you guys haven't met before, but yeah, so he definitely knows what he's talking about when it comes to certain things. I don't invite scrubs on here, right? So, next up, we got Iowa State, number 14 Iowa State, going to Baylor. Baylor's sitting at 3-0, surprisingly, and Iowa State's favored by a touchdown.
Yeah, I'll take Iowa State to cover.
Okay.
You know this. I'm pretty high on Iowa State.
Who'd they lose to?
I picked them to beat Iowa, and Iowa, beat them.
Yeah.
But I mean, I still think Iowa State's really good.
I'm taking Iowa State as well. I like Breece Hall a lot. I don't know if Baylor's run defense will be able to stop him. What are you taking, CJ?
Iowa State. I don't think Baylor's gonna stop them. And they're top what?
They're number 14 right now.
Top 15 team in the country. I mean, obviously they're away, but I mean that still should be a game they win.
Yeah, I agree. Especially if they want to stay in the rankings, that's a game you have to have. A lot of teams are opening up conference play this week, Phyllis.
Wait, does that say Villanova?
Yeah.
When did they get a football team? I'm actually
They're independent now.
About that.
They went independent. But next up, we got Colorado State 1-2 going to Iowa, where Iowa's getting 23.5. Iowa needs to win this game again. Move to 4-0. They should win.
They're gonna win.
What you got, Ryan?
I mean, seems about right to me.
Yeah. That's fair. So, here's a kind of an interesting game right here. Nebraska at 2-2 is going to number 20 now. Michigan State is 3-0. Michigan State's getting 5 points.
I got Nebraska.
You like what you saw against Oklahoma?
I think they played good there, and I'm not a big believer in Michigan State. I believe in Michigan more than I believe in Michigan State.
So does that mean you were even less of a believer in Miami then?
I ain't been a believer in Miami in 25 years. Every time I hear the U's back, they always suck the next year. So.
So just a reminder, Nebraska did lose to Illinois. That's their other loss.
Freaky team. I still take Nebraska.
Okay, I'm going to take... This is a tough game for me regarding how Scott Frost played in Norman, but realistically, I think Oklahoma is just playing down to their competition. I'm going to take Michigan State in a close one. I don't know. They might cover. What do you think, Brian? 5-point favorites, Michigan State.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I'll take Michigan State in a close one. One thing, I don't know if we have time for this right now, but like I know we were talking about Scott Frost.
Yeah.
Like, why? Like, what happened? You know, like,
He went undefeated.
Nebraska been so bad?
Yeah, I don't know about that either. You see that he went undefeated at UCF, one of the highest touted head coaches, like for head coaching jobs that were open, and he goes to Nebraska, and since then they have just not competed. Now,
you can look at it a couple different ways. I mean, he left in 2018, 2019,
2017.
2017. I mean,
He's had
recruiting
4
doesn't really
seasons.
help when you're in the Big Ten. You're going up against some of the best talent in the world.
So here's what I got to say to that. I think where we were at, Ryan, with our headspace of it, like, you know what? He's coming in, and, like, I saw all these articles, like, he's getting recruits, all this and that. And like, okay, I'm expecting Nebraska to be decent. You know, a couple years ago, I want to say it was 2018, 2019, Nebraska came into the year ranked. Like, all this, Scott Frost is getting his recruits, all this and that, right? I'm sitting here watching, and I'm like, okay, they beat 3 FCS schools, 4 FCS schools, whatever. Then they beat Rutgers or whatever. They started at 4-5-0, Nebraska. Then they're playing Ohio State, a ranked game. I want to say it was 62-3, something like that. Since then, I have not been a believer in Nebraska ever again, until they prove me differently.
So Ohio State just ruined Scott Frost, is what you're saying?
I wouldn't say that, but
I would say like this. I mean, when you look at it, you go from a team in the AAC, not a Power 5 school. You're gonna struggle regardless. That's like saying Lane Kiffin going from where he was at FAU. Wasn't that where he was at?
Yeah.
It's like saying him going to the SEC. Like, dude, he's gonna struggle. I mean, there's no other way to say it. I mean, more than likely you're not gonna go to a top tier SEC school. So like him going to he's gonna go to a bottom Big Ten school, Scott Frost.
That's fair.
There's no, like, he's a good coach, but when you're going up against Michigan, when you're going up against Ohio State, Penn State, Wisconsin, Iowa every year, you're not going to get the stuff you want. I mean, that's just everybody knows that.
I didn't really think of it like that. Ryan, he did go from the top of a conference to the bottom when it comes to terms of stuff like that.
Well, it just seems like a bit of the drop-off seems a bit extreme, you know?
Yeah, like it's too steep. Like, at least be a middle-of-the-pack Big Ten team, right?
Yeah, but I just thought, like, I know we're having that debate about, like, coaches.
Yeah.
You remember that one?
Yeah, about adding a good coach means a good team or not.
Yeah, and I thought that was just really thought-provoking because, like, I was trying to figure out, like, is there a great coach with a crappy team?
I brought up Scott Frost.
And you brought up Frost, and I was like, okay, well, is he actually a great coach? Not sure. Hard to say, you know?
Yeah, that's... That could be for
Problem
another
is-
topic here later. What would you want to say, CJ?
The biggest problem is you never really see somebody. You see more of offensive coordinators from Ohio State or Alabama or one of your top tier guys in the country. Those are the guys who get the good jobs once you get like say somebody leaves what's a decent school, UCLA. Say somebody leaves UCLA, they're going to be usually decent where they play. That might be where they go. They might go to a school like Stanford. They might go to a school like USC. They're going to get the bigger jobs. People
USC
like
has an opening too.
people like Scott Frost, no offense to him, yes, he was coaching in the AAC. Like, I personally like Scott Frost, and I personally think that the AAC outside of Clemson is better than the ACC. But when you get a coach from somewhere like that, not in a Power 5 conference, they're not going to get on your bigger tier schools. Like, you know what I mean?
I agree with that take. I agree with exactly what you mean because you see coordinators leave to become head coaches more than anything. That's exactly what Ohio State did. They took Ryan Day from being a coordinator. I also agree with your AAC versus ACC take. AAC proved it this past weekend. But moving on here, Villanova, the basketball school, goes to Penn State on Saturday at noon. Penn State's getting 29. Villanova's 3-0.
More than that.
Villanova's 3-0.
I don't care. They're a basketball school, man.
What do you think, Ryan?
That might be 50-0.
I agree.
You think Penn State covers 29?
Okay, I mean, I don't know anything about Villanova football.
Yeah, I mean,
The fact that none of us know anything about Villanova football probably means Penn State will cover.
that's fine. And here's a game on SEC Network. Number 2, Georgia goes to Vanderbilt, who's already won more games this year than they did last year with 1 on the resume. Georgia's getting 34.5, and the over-under is 53. I'm assuming Georgia's probably favored to win 53-0 in this game. Vanderbilt was the worst team in the SEC last year. You really want me to throw in that stat, don't you, Ryan? Vanderbilt 0-9 last year, worst team in the SEC. On the road, played Texas A&M, lost 17-12. One of the most unimpressive
I knew
wins.
you were going to say that.
That will be staying into my mind. But anyway, it's a new year. Do they still have the girl kicker?
Nah, she retired.
Ouch. Even she left for better options from Vanderbilt football. So I'd take Georgia to cover 34.5.
I agree. I don't think Vandy's going to give them a game.
Yeah, so Ryan, you also agree with that, I'm assuming.
I mean, 34.5 is a lot.
I think Mercer would beat Vanderbilt. I'm
Yeah.
actually serious about that, too.
Yeah, I also agree with that. So speaking of, actually, if you were to talk about something that's kind of funny, how we were just talking about the Penn State-Villanova game, there's no over-under on that game. They just have Penn State favored by 29. Every other game has an over-under. They don't even have one listed on theirs.
Oh,
Because they're scared to put it on there, man. I mean, just look. No offense, but
So,
I don't even know, bro. Why is Vanderbilt even in playing football?
so Ryan, speaking of Vanderbilt, and this might make some more sense to you, this is the third game of the Fox Bet Super 6 where the spread is 34.5. So,
yeah.
So they might have tried to make it that steep to get more people to bite on it when they might beat them by a lot, but they might not cover.
34.5 is that's a lot. I'm not sure about that.
That is a lot. Speaking of even more of that, Coastal Carolina is getting 35.5 over UMass at home. UMass 0-3 and Coastal Carolina 3-0. Number 17, Coastal Carolina, over under 66.5, and Coastal Carolina's favored by 35.5. So they're at least expected to score 5 touchdowns on this team.
Yeah. Anytime it's a 30-point spread or more,
Yeah,
I'm a little bit scared of that.
that's fair.
But,
I think Coastal Carolina across the board there. Interesting game here. Number 9, Clemson, travels to NC State, where Clemson is favored by 10. The over-under is 47.
I'll say this right now. Even though Clemson has looked horrible, they do have a lot of injuries.
They do. I agree.
Like you can look back through it. I still think Clemson makes a run at the end of the year. I think it's just a matter of getting their quarterback really comfortable in the system. Because I mean, obviously he's there for a year. He started 2 games with Trevor Lawrence out, 1 game with Trevor Lawrence out last year.
2 games.
You lost a lot. I mean, it comes down to who you lost in the draft, and they did. I mean, their defense is still good, but I mean, this isn't the same Clemson team. There's no doubt. Everybody knows that, but they still have one of the best losses in football. So that's helping them right now, even though it's not a win. I think they do beat North Carolina State, but I think it's more than 10.
Really? I think North Carolina State's a better football team than Georgia Tech that they just beat by 6.
I'll agree with that.
And they're on the road for this. This is a worrisome game. This has upset alert written on it for me. I almost want to take NC State in this game, but I'm going to give Clemson the benefit of the doubt as the Clemson Tigers that they win. I don't think they cover.
What? You're almost going to pick NC State to win, or is that what you said?
I'm picking Clemson to win, but not cover the 10-point.
Not cover. Yeah, I mean, I think they'll cover.
You think they win by more than 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
last week just didn't get to you guys, huh?
No, it did a little bit, but I mean, stuff happens.
Yeah.
In college, I mean, they're not professionals, right?
Yeah. I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
They're not going to be always necessarily ultra sharp.
Clemson offenses need to pick it up. I think they're a better team than NC State.
If it happens again, I'm going to be starting to panic a little bit.
Yeah. So, Ryan, let me ask you this. When's the last time you saw a Clemson football team score 3 points, then score 14 points?
No, I mean, yeah, never.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And now to the battle of... This is one of the hardest games for me to pick. And it's the 4th game of the Fox Bet Super 6. Of course it is, right, Ryan? The hardest ones to pick are the ones that you bet the spread. Number 7, Texas A&M, going to number 16, Arkansas, where A&M is getting 4.5. The over-under is 47.5.
I think Arkansas is going to win, and I say it because this is not the same Texas A&M team from the start of the year. Now, when I say that, the only difference is they don't have the quarterback they want. They have a quarterback who came in late because their freshman, the guy that they picked to start the season, got hurt.
They lost Kellen Mond.
Well, I'm not even talking about him. I think his name was Hayes King or whatever. He was their starting quarterback, and he got hurt. So, when we look at the past couple weeks, other than last week, they absolutely blew out whoever they played.
They played Chattanooga State Tech University of Technology, I think.
Okay, you're capping. But what I mean by this is I don't think Texas A&M without that quarterback is going to do anything. I think they're going to be the middle of the pack team. I think they'll still be probably fourth best in the SEC, but other than that, I don't see them doing much.
Really? You're not sold on A&M?
I mean, I haven't been sold on A&M for years, but I mean, they're still one of the better teams in the SEC.
See, that's exactly where I stand, and that's where Ryan stands, and that's where Nate stands, and that's where everybody I talk to stands. So why do they get this ranking? What have they done to get this ranking? I think Auburn is better than them. I'm not even just saying it. I think Florida's better than them. I think Alabama's better than them. I think Georgia's better than them. I think that there's possible other SEC teams that are better than them that I'm not even mentioning, that aren't even ranked yet.
Well, look throughout the rankings and count how many of them are SEC and count how many of them are Big Ten.
7 SEC, 6 Big Ten.
That makes up more than half of your top 25. I mean, you have to throw people in there.
Yeah, but I'm saying they're in my rankings. They're just not number 7. They don't deserve that spot to me. Like I said, speaking of teams like this, Minnesota wins 30-0 against Colorado on the road. They're not even ranked. They're not anywhere near my rankings yet. Texas A&M goes to Colorado, plays the exact same team 1 week before. They win 10-7. What is selling me that they're the number 7 team in the country? Nothing. With that being said, Texas A&M wins this game because they have one of the best running backs in the country.
Yeah. I think A&M, was it 4.5?
Yeah, 4.5.
Dude, they dropped Ohio State to 10?
Yeah.
Jeez, I have not looked at the rankings at all.
You want to see our rankings after this? I'll show you.
Yeah. So you both got A&M winning?
What you got, Ryan?
Yeah, I think they're going to cover.
Gotcha. I also do because I don't see a lot of football games within 4 points that often. It doesn't seem like. I don't know. That might be a bad take, but I think I also have Arkansas in my rankings, but I think they're getting a little bit of love for beating a bad Texas team. 16 and 7 are both too high for these teams for me, and that has nothing to do with their conference. Like, I think LSU, or not LSU, I think Auburn is better than both of these teams, and Florida are better than both of these teams.
College football has just become too top heavy, and I think everybody can agree with that. Top 8 teams after 8, it really doesn't mean anything.
Ohio State's 10.
Ohio
That means
State,
nothing.
Okay, let me finish. Ohio State is never 10. I think that they did not. Obviously, they lost to Oregon, but they bumped them down way too much for losing to a team who would have been in the top 10 regardless.
Oregon's number 3 right now.
Now, Oregon always. I mean, me and you know this, Paul. Oregon always has that game later in the year against somebody who, for some reason,
Ryan knows it better than us. Trust me, he
for
knows.
some reason, they always play down to that team's standards, which I think will happen this year. I
Ooh.
don't know who, but
I don't see it this year. I think they're really legit. Ryan would know better than all of us. He watches every single one of their games through and through. You think your team's legit this year?
We're playing Arizona this week, and we're probably going to lose.
You guys are favored by 30, but moving on from that.
Gosh.
Rutgers 3-0 goes to one of the most dominant teams in the Big Ten right now, 19 Michigan. Michigan's favored by 21 still. I think that's about accurate. I'm picking Michigan to win this game.
I'll take Michigan to win. There's no reason they don't. Michigan's looking good, man.
That's what I was just saying. Like, as much as I hate to say it, you guys both know I hate to say it. Like, they do look good. What you got,
But
Ryan?
don't worry. Once the last game comes, they won't look good.
What you got,
Yeah,
Ryan?
I mean, I don't think there's much to say about that one.
Now, if Rutgers wins, how legit do you make them? They become 4-0.
Well, if it's at Michigan, then, I mean,
It is at Michigan.
I don't see them winning, though. I mean,
I don't either.
I don't think it'd even make them legit, to be honest. Because, I mean, let's be honest. Who actually thought Michigan was going to come out and do what they're doing right now?
Robbie Fancher.
Well, don't even get me started on him.
All right, well, moving on here. We got Georgia State going to Auburn. Auburn's getting 27. I think they cover. Yeah, I think they win by more.
Auburn, you're going to hate me saying this. Auburn's coaching absolutely. Now, I'm not saying they threw it.
Oh, I agree.
They technically threw that game.
Yeah, they did. Who throws a fade in 4th and goal?
I was watching that because I had nothing better to do. I had COVID. And I'm sitting there thinking, are you serious? That's the best play call you can come up.
Did you see that, Ryan?
I did not.
4th and goal at the 1, and they threw a one-on-one fade in the corner of the end zone, and the quarterback threw it out of the back of the end zone.
And then they had another chance to come back and almost do it again.
You like Bo Nix, CJ? He's been there 3 years now.
I think Bo Nix is one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. I think the biggest problem is they do not trust him when they play big teams. Look at when he plays small schools and like smaller SEC teams to when he plays against Alabama. They do not let him throw the ball, which makes no sense to me because he has a hell of an arm.
Yeah. I'm still believing Auburn's going to be... I'll say it now. Auburn is the 4th best team in the SEC. Maybe potentially higher than that. I think Florida's better than Georgia.
Better than Georgia?
Yeah. Georgia's offense is not that great to me. But I think they're close. Don't quote me like I'm saying Florida blows out Georgia. That's not what I'm saying. Georgia's defense is good, really good. I'm just waiting for Georgia's offense to get completely healthy so I could see how good they actually are. But if they played right now, I'd take Florida. But moving on from that, number 24 UCLA, 2-1, is favored on the road here, Ryan. This is the last game or the 5th game of the Fox Bet Super 6. They're on the road at 2-1 Stanford, where they're favored by 5.5, and the over/under is 58.5.
I think UCLA wins.
Yeah. Stanford, I think, has been better than expected, but I think UCLA. I think that spread is pretty good.
UCLA getting 5.5.
Yeah, I think that's just about right.
Okay, that's
I mean,
fair.
I'm gonna say they cover, barely.
Okay, that's fair. I'll take UCLA as well.
Look at the team. UCLA a couple years ago were absolutely horrible. And then they go out and they get a coach like Chip Kelly. And Chip Kelly in the college offense was always a good head coach. But once he went to the NFL, it did not work out. So you bring him, you finally let him get his recruits. I'm not saying they're going to be like a top pack team this year, but I think in the next coming years, you could see UCLA up in the top 15 to the top 10 because that's just what Chip Kelly does.
Yeah. I can see that. So, I like UCLA in this game as well. The next game, we got number 25, Kansas State, who didn't find my rankings. And they're on the road at Oklahoma State, who's 3-0. Oklahoma State's favored by 6. Over-under is 45.5. I'm taking Kansas State in this game. Not more of a believer in Kansas State, not as much of a believer in Oklahoma State. I don't know how much you guys have paid attention to these teams, but Oklahoma State just beat Boise by 1 point last Saturday. But the major game that sticks out to me is Week 1 at Oklahoma State, CJ and Ryan. They played Missouri State and won 23-16.
Yeah, I'll still take Oklahoma State. I'm not a big believer. I've never been a big believer in Kansas State. Every time they go to play a big game or somewhere away, they never, for some reason, they just can't win it.
What are you thinking, Ryan?
What's the spread again?
Oklahoma State's getting 6.
Yeah, I mean that seems pretty decent to me. You're picking K-State to win?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, that seems kind of a bold take, but I think, yeah, I'll take Oklahoma State. Maybe to barely cover,
Okay, that's fair. And then a game that 2-1 Tennessee goes on the road to play Florida this week. Florida's favored by 20. I think I'm thinking they cover. Yeah, I'm not a believer in Tennessee. They lost to Pitt. I picked that game, by the way, after everybody was talking how high on Tennessee they were. I picked Pitt. You can go back 2 weeks ago on the podcast. I picked Pittsburgh, and I said I'm not a believer in Tennessee. I'm still not a believer in Tennessee. I'm taking Florida. Florida looked really good. I'm not going to necessarily put them at I see a lot of people on Facebook. Literally, I'm a Facebook demon when it comes to this type of stuff because I argue with literally any and everybody on there because I'll look at the ESPN post and see 800 biased comments and I comment on every single one of them. But a lot of people are putting Florida almost at the level of Alabama just because they lost by 2. And I don't think that that's necessarily the case. I think Florida's good, but if that game's at Alabama, I don't think it's a 2-point game.
Well, you just said that Florida is better than Georgia.
I do believe that.
So
right now.
That's kind of bending my mind a little bit, man.
I think Alabama is a complete level above everybody else in the SEC.
Look,
Well-
I'll say like this. I think Alabama's clear cut better than everybody in college football right now. And I say this
don't.
because they have a lot of players that came back last year on the defensive side of the ball. They lost a lot on offense, but Bryce Young just looks better and better every week. He struggled a little bit last week, but that was the first time he actually went on the road because last year nobody was allowed to have fans.
Yeah, well, we talked about this a little bit earlier head on. I think we kind of disagree with you. It's not necessarily Alabama's not number one or Bryce Young's not number one. I just don't think it's by a landslide.
Don't see no other team beating them, man, right now. And
Florida almost did. Like, they had cracks in the armor, though.
I watched that game, and the way that how does your game clock work the entire game and then stop within the last 2 minutes of the game?
Did you watch the Penn State-Auburn game where the refs made Penn State punt on third down? How does that happen?
Yeah, that's horrible.
How does that happen? So,
I don't know, but that's not as bad as the game clock stopping.
I don't know.
They
Having
had
a
to
punt
handle it.
on third down, that's pretty bad. Do you agree?
I agree. I'm just saying, though, you look at, dude, they had to do the game clock on the field. Like, the players have no clue, even if there's 10 or 15 seconds.
That's fair. And then the last game of the Fox Bet Super 6, the one that I said was the weakest, one of the weaker college game day games, but we'll see about it. 2-1 West Virginia going 3-0 Oklahoma. Oklahoma's favored by 16.
I want to cover that.
I don't think they cover either. I think Oklahoma wins, though. What do you got, Ryan?
Sorry, I missed Oklahoma and who?
Oklahoma is at home playing West Virginia, where they're favored by 16.
Oh, yeah. Oklahoma has not been very great. West Virginia just got a big win. I mean, yeah, Oklahoma wins, for sure.
Do they cover?
I'm not sure they cover.
This is the last game of the bet, too. The bet Super 6. Oklahoma favored by 16. I think that's steep.
It's just scary, man. Because, like,
Yeah.
I mean, you look at it, Oklahoma, they're not the same team as last year, but also, I mean, what team is?
I was about to say that none of the teams are the same as last year. Ohio State's not the same. Alabama's not the same. Clemson's not the same. Oklahoma's not the same.
I mean, dude, me and you could play better defense than what Ohio State's doing right now.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad,
that
Ryan.
is-
When I tell you it's bad, it's bad. Like, what we saw last week. Speaking of Ohio State, they're the next game. Ohio State is at home. They're playing Akron, Ohio. Akron's 1-2. Ohio State is favored by 49.
If they give up more than 20 points, then I'm dropping them again.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm sorry, bro.
You
Like,
betting that, Ryan? 49-point favorites?
39.
49.
Akron has them. They're horrible. Dude.
That's hard to comprehend.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, the game right below that, Alabama is playing Southern Miss, and they're favored by 45.
Yeah, I mean,
Both of those schools are 49 and 45-point favorites.
yeah, I mean, I'm not touching that, but they're both gonna roll, obviously, but I mean, that's just like I said, anything above 30 is pretty steep,
Yeah, when you're favored by 50, though,
49, yeah.
it's like, do you bet that, CJ? Like, you bet them to cover them?
No. I don't care who you're playing. I'm not betting anybody winning by 50. Because at the end of the day, something could go wrong. Say CJ Stroud hurts himself. He gets hurt. All right, then say Garrett Wilson gets hurt.
They
Right,
still
then
win
say-
by 35 and still don't cover.
And they don't cover. Exactly. That's my point. Like, I'm never doing anything unless it's 20. I'll do 20. 20 or 21. I will never do anything higher than that.
You're not betting Alabama to win by 45?
No. I don't care who they're playing. No,
Southern Miss.
no.
So take Ohio State and take Alabama to pick. When it comes to picking just who's going to win, yes, this week. Down to our last 3 games here. This is one that's kind of a low spread for me. 2-1 North Carolina got back on track this past week. They're at Georgia Tech, where Georgia Tech's 1-2. North Carolina is favored by 12. Over under in this game 63.
Ain't got no defense. Jesus. I don't know. I mean, UNC is a weird team. I like their quarterback. I don't really like anything else.
Last year I loved their running backs.
Their running backs are good, but I mean, this year I just think Sam Howell is the best, probably one of the best college quarterbacks. But he's not going to get any recognition for the Heisman because he's not on Clemson.
What are you taking in this game?
I'm going to take North Carolina.
To cover?
I think they'll beat them more than 12. I don't trust Georgia Tech.
They just played a 6-point game with Clemson.
Yeah, you're playing against a dogged Clemson team. Hopefully North Carolina's fully healthy to where they should expose Georgia Tech.
What do you think, Ryan?
I mostly agree. I like Sam Howell a lot also. But I think you made a great point. Like, they just play. I mean, Georgia. What is it? Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
They just played Clemson to a close game. So,
4th and goal at the 1-yard line game.
So I kind of have a hard time picking North Carolina to cover. But yeah, they're gonna win. I don't know that they'll cover.
I think North Carolina actually does cover. More of the fact that I think North Carolina's offense is better than Clemson's right now. I think they'll score more than 14 points. Moving on from that, I got UCF on the road. Finally, first game I've seen BYU favored in. Number 15 BYU, they're favored by 22.5. I'd take BYU. BYU's impressed me this year so far. After losing Zach Wilson, they look like they haven't missed a step.
I'd take BYU. I'd take them to cover, too. I mean, BYU, they've never been an offensive threat. It's always in their defense. It's just been that good. And Zach Wilson last year was good, but you can plug any quarterback into that system, and their defense is still just going to carry them.
So, Ryan, you didn't seem too sold. I've in Pick'em all 3 weeks I picked BYU, and they have not been favored in a single game they played. So let me just give you some reminders. First off, they beat Arizona week 1, whatever, at Arizona. Back-to-back weeks now, they beat Utah and they beat Arizona State.
Which Arizona State was in the ranking.
And so was Utah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they appear to be, competitive with the Pac-12. So
yeah.
They're definitely, you like you were saying. I mean, with losing Wilson, kind of maybe expected a step back, but it doesn't seem like it.
Yeah. So I'm taking them to win and to cover. Arizona 0-3 at number 3 Oregon, 10:30 game for us over here on the East Coast, Midwest, whatever you want to call it. Oregon is favored by 29 and over under 58.5. I think Oregon wins. I don't think you like the spread so much though.
No, I'm scared to death. That's all I'm gonna say, dude. I cannot tell you how many times I've freaking. Damn, it's one of the Arizonas that always gets us.
Really?
Yeah, Arizona State got us.
That's what you were talking about, CJ, isn't it? About Oregon?
I don't remember. I mean, yeah, they always lose a game that makes no sense. But or is their star player playing in this?
Verdell going to play?
Verdell's going to play. I don't know about Thibodeau.
Yeah, that's... So also this game starts at 10:30 for us p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not watching that.
So you guys should win. Blow the doors off Arizona. They're 0-3. They got no wins. You guys have a win under Ohio State and Fresno State. That's 2 ranked wins. You guys should roll. Cover, right? Win by 29 at least?
Dude, I'm not picking us to cover.
You're staying away from that?
Cover. I'm staying away from anything over 21. I think they beat them,
just
though.
scared. Like you're saying, like, we always lose a game that makes no sense. Like I was saying a couple of years ago, Arizona State got us. We probably would have made the playoff if not for that game.
Oh yeah, I remember that now. It was late in the year, like, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Arizona State wasn't that great, I want to say. You guys pulled an Ohio State where you lose to an unranked team in your conference?
Yeah, so, I mean, and then Arizona did it to us when Mariota was there.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, like, I'm just... both the Arizonas scare me a lot.
Yeah.
But we should be fine, you know?
Yeah. So, CJ, I'm going to go back now to the our rankings if you want to take a peek at everyone's rankings. I mean, Nate's not here to defend himself, but you know him enough where you can take it.
Oh, it'll be something special. I know that.
I feel like he went with a safe route this week. Ryan's pretty high still on Clemson and Ohio State. I wonder where your rankings are at, CJ. Like who you have around your top 10.
I'll look at your guys and just base it off that because I've not made a list at all. I'm at Oregon, Georgia.
Do you guys think it's reasonable to put Oregon ahead of Georgia?
Nate did that. I do. I don't think it's a bad taste. Like I said, you guys have 2 ranked wins. How many other teams can say that? 1.
Yeah, I was...
Iowa.
Yeah, obviously considering it, but then I was like, let's not be too biased.
I wanted to put Rutgers in the top 25, Paul.
I have them at 25.
I know. I still wanted to put them in there.
Hey, they're 3-0. Give credit where it's deserved.
Beat Michigan, and I give credit.
That's fair.
They're not overall. They're not like horrible.
Yeah, they don't seem too far off.
I'd say this. I think Ohio State has to be at least lower than 8.
That's where Nate.
It's no offense to them. It's just I don't think that they're not the same team, which goes to show a lot of teams aren't. But when you're giving up that many points to teams that they shouldn't be, that's unacceptable.
That's
out of
fair.
any team. It could be Alabama. It could be Georgia.
Ryan, I think you're banking on Ohio State to turn it around, I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think they'll turn it around. I think that if they don't go to 8, I don't see them making the playoffs. 1, you have to go undefeated. Your defense just doesn't look that good, and you still have to play Penn State, and you still have to play Michigan, and you have to go to Michigan.
Yeah, here's the thing for me when it comes to Ohio State, though. They have, at this moment, if it was to end right now, they would have 5 more ranked games on their schedule.
But if you were to go into the top...
And if they win that, and they win 5 ranked games, who else can... And you got to think about this for a second here. That means that's a win over Penn State and a win over Iowa already, so you're not going to keep them ahead of them. They have a loss to Oregon. Alabama and Georgia play each other. I mean, I guess Oklahoma and... let me ask this. Does an Ohio State Big Ten championship team with 5 ranked wins and 1 loss to Oregon make the college football playoff over an undefeated Cincinnati?
Yes.
I think the committee puts them in.
It's tough. Because at that point, UC did what they had to do. They beat if UC goes undefeated, they win their conference, and they beat Notre Dame. They beat Indiana, which is the two teams everybody said if they do that, that should show who gets in.
But Ohio State would have 5 ranked wins, 2 top 10 wins at that point, and Cincinnati's
that's
one win
a
over
huge
Notre
thing.
Dame would not be enough to compare to those 5 to me. What do you think, Ryan?
I don't know that Cincinnati is the right team to compare. I mean,
Where do you get 5 ranked wins? That's what I want to know.
okay. So Michigan State, they play ranked. Michigan,
If
they play.
they are ranked still.
I said if it ended
You're
right
good.
now. I said that. Michigan is ranked right now. They play Wisconsin. That's a ranked game. They play Penn State. That's a ranked game. If it ended right now, they'd beat Iowa in the Big Ten championship. That's
Don't play
ranked.
Wisconsin this year.
Are you sure about that?
Looking at their schedule right now, they play Akron next week. Then they play Rutgers.
Well,
Maryland,
there's your ranked
Indiana.
game. Hold on, Rutgers.
Yeah, no, they're not going to be ranked.
Maryland will probably be ranked after this week.
They got to keep winning. But Indiana, they're not going to be ranked. They got 2 losses.
But that's the one game that they got to win to prove themselves. They got to beat Indiana, right?
That's for UC.
But how is that
Because
fair? Why do they get special treatment?
They don't. Coming into the year, those were the 2 games everybody said we want to see UC win. If they can't win those 2 games, they don't deserve even a chance to be in the playoffs.
So Ohio State playing
I'll
a
give you
harder
Penn State.
schedule than UC and
That's
winning more
because Big
games.
Ten. That's only because, but
Yeah.
you want to win more games. If both went
No,
undefeated, UC would still win more games.
Yeah, but what do you value more, wins in a Big Ten or wins in the American? What games are usually
You
harder?
can look at that, but at that point, you have to look at the entire who would you have in the top 4? Oregon's probably gonna, if they should be undefeated.
You see my top 4 right now.
Alabama, I think they'll probably end up winning the SEC. But then there's 2. I think Oklahoma wins the Big 12. And I think they're the 3rd team in. I think 3 teams are Alabama, Oregon, and Oklahoma, right?
Dude,
And
I'm not sold on Oklahoma though. Like they are playing tight games.
I'm not either. But you're not gonna put 2 teams.
No, I don't
the
think they're a
SEC.
shoe in though. I don't think Oklahoma is a shoe in. I think they have chances to lose.
I mean, everybody has a chance to lose. I think the closest chance they had to lose though is in the second last game of the year, and that's to Iowa State.
Yeah, Big 12 necessarily isn't a powerhouse either. I mean, you
But
see,
so then
you look
you
at
have
the
one
top of my
spot.
screen here, CJ. Rankings by conference and the AP poll. You have 6 teams in the Big 10, 7 in the SEC. The American has Cincinnati. If you're going to count conference play, okay, well, I mean, I get that. Like, they're moving to the Big 12. Good for them. I'm not even trying to hate on UC or anything, but, like, a win against Tulane is not going to, like, you saying all they have to do is beat Indiana
I didn't say
and all that and Notre Dame. Like, you said that's what they needed to do.
I said that's what people coming into the season said for UC to have a chance. I'm not saying UC would even make it in if they went undefeated. I'm saying, though, there's a lot of teams still that we have no clue who that 4th team would be. There's no guarantee that Ohio State's going to go to, Penn State or Michigan and get in there and destroy them.
No, I don't say that at
Ohio
all.
State team
I'm asking
that-
you right now, if Ohio State went out with their 1 loss and UC went out, who does the committee give the nod to make it if it were
they're
down to
gonna
those
give it
2?
to the Big Ten school.
As they
that-
should.
But you can't. That's where it comes. You can't discredit though what UC is doing.
I'm not. They lost a... Okay, Ryan, could I remind you of a certain game last season? It might be fogging a lot of people's minds here. This Georgia team, JT Daniels and co., right?
Mm-hmm.
They played their starters in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl against Cincinnati. Georgia won that game 24-21.
UC should have won that game.
And they should have won. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And they should have won that game. I don't think a lot of people are mentioning that. I think Cincinnati should have a chance, CJ. I'm saying what the committee would do is they'd put the Big Ten school in over. And I think that as much as it sucks to hear, you know that there was a stat on Saturday during the UC game. They said Cincinnati chance to make the college football playoff before the game, 2.7%. If they beat Indiana, you know what their percent chance went up to? 4.7%.
Yeah, because they're not banking on the Indiana game. They're banking on beating Notre Dame in North Bend.
I just think the committee's going to put – the committee would put a one-loss Clemson in over them. I think the committee would put a one-loss Ohio State or Penn State in over them, I think.
Yeah.
The committee's going to put an Oklahoma one-loss over them, I think, undefeated or not.
I understand. I never said UC should be in the top 4. I'm saying I think the top 3 are set, as long as bearing they don't lose, which would, in my opinion, the top 3 would probably be Alabama, Oregon, and Oklahoma.
If you're going off teams not losing, if Iowa doesn't lose, how do you keep them out?
You put them in.
Okay. I was just wondering about that.
But they're on the other side of the Big Ten. That's what I mean. So at that point, if they stay undefeated, then yeah, they go into the playoff. But now, even say they do lose though, then what? You have Clemson, you have Ohio State. Depending on what Notre Dame does with Cincinnati, if they go undefeated, you have Notre Dame. You have a lot of schools. You have four or five schools fighting for one spot.
No, you don't. That's why they're expanding it to 8.
They're not expanding it to 8.
I know. I'm just saying it would just make more sense.
I wish they did.
So, CJ, let me remind you of this game. This is probably going to be the biggest game in the Big Ten this year. On October 9th, number 6 Penn State. In the AP poll, by the way, we all have Penn State lower than what they are in the AP poll besides Nate. Number 6 Penn State goes to number 5 Iowa. Is that not the biggest game in the Big Ten this year, probably?
Yeah, I bet you Penn State wins that game.
Do you? On the road?
I'm not. Yeah, dude, I'm not sold on Iowa's offense.
Okay, that's fair.
Indiana's not.
You got Penn State winning the Big Ten?
I think they do. I don't think. We're looking at an Iowa team whose defense is good. Penn State showed last week that they can win a huge game. Indiana, and it sucks for UC because that's who they needed to beat with them and